This short film is designed to inspire a conversation in your own community as part of Convergence 2012. We all know that change is needed, but how do we work together? How do we collaborate for the future we want?
This year for Convergence, we are going back to what really matters to us. What do you value? How can an understanding of values support us to build community resilience and sustainability? As a global conversation takes place at Rio de Janeiro about the future our world wants, we want to ask you, what is the future your community wants? What really matters to you? This next part of the film is by Tom Crompton. Tom is with WWF in the UK and is the co-author of Common Cause, a report about values that can help us to understand how values can support us to collaborate for the future we want.
Many people are now recognising the need to act and work together to create a more sustainable world, both for ourselves and for future generations. It's been 2 decades since world leaders and civil society gathered in Brazil for the last Earth Summit, which popularised the idea of sustainability. Although a number of groundbreaking treaties on climate change and biodiversity were created there, there's a long way to go, and growing realisation that the future we want cannot be achieved without all of us working together. Any meeting of governments reminds us of the complexity of the global problems that we confront, the way that the problems about natural limits and poverty are intimately interconnected, and the way that the interests of powerful elites in business and politics seem to constantly frustrate the emergence of adequate responses. In Ireland, you're facing similarly complex economic, cultural and environmental challenges at a national level. I know that you're encountering impatience for change, but where do we start? On what basis might we collaborate to create the future that we want? Seen in one way, the challenge is simple. It's one of living differently, not just by ticking off the things we might do differently, insulating our lofts or growing veggies, important as those things are, but by asking what it is that matters most to us collectively, and crucially, what it is that shapes what matters to us collectively. Problems of the scale and complexity that we confront demand that we explore what it is that shapes our hopes and aspirations, what it is that motivates our commitment to living differently or engaging politically, what it is that keeps us going when it seems everything's so difficult, and what it is that serves as a shared fabric of our social movements. This source of motivation, shared inspiration and stamina, is to be found in a particular constellation of values. Values of community, self-direction, creativity, equality, connection to nature. Social psychologists call these intrinsic values. They're mutually reinforcing. Hold one of these things to be important and you're likely to hold others of them to be important. You're also more likely to express concern about the environment or social injustices, more likely to treat people equally, and more likely to be motivated to engage politically or to make change happen in your community. Recognising the importance of nurturing these values leads to the realisation that those working on social or environmental problems have a common purpose which transcends focus on particular issues. So often, it seems, the work of civil society organisations is fragmented across the issues that we work on because of the differences, and at times tensions, between the various policies or behaviours that we would like to see change. But whether we work on community renewables or global justice, gay rights or poverty, biodiversity conservation or disability rights, animal rights or civil liberties, there are a set of values which infuse our work. Problem, of course, these intrinsic values and the concerns that they motivate are undermined to the extent that we hold another set of values to be important, extrinsic values. Extrinsic values include social status, image, wealth, financial success, and these values are antagonistic to intrinsic values. What does that mean? Well, to the extent that a person holds extrinsic values to be more important, they're likely to hold intrinsic values to be less important. Concern for community feeling and concern for financial success, for example, are almost exactly opposed to one another. More than this, it's found that reminding a person momentarily of the importance of extrinsic values reduces the importance that they attach to intrinsic values, and therefore, of course, also the concern that they express about a range of issues associated with these values, caring for others, for example. Show people pictures of money or pictures of consumer goods, or even simply refer to them as a consumer rather than as a citizen, and studies have found that they're likely to respond by becoming temporarily less socially and environmentally concerned. Over time, repeatedly reminding a person of the importance of extrinsic values increases the significance that she or he attaches to those values in a more permanent way. Of course, all these values, intrinsic and extrinsic, are important to all of us. It's the relative importance that we attach to each that's of significance. So to the extent that we're concerned about social and environmental issues, we can find common cause in asking, how do we strengthen intrinsic values in society? How do we weaken extrinsic values? Where do these values come from? Well, they come from the way that we choose collectively to configure society. Some things that influence our values will take time to change, how we bring up and educate our kids, for example. Other things that influence our values could be changed overnight, how much commercial advertising we're exposed to, or, even more simply, whether we refer to people as consumers or citizens. This points to an opportunity to begin to galvanise civil society action right across issue-based concerns, asking not, is my pet issue the most important? Might it conflict with your pet issue on points of policy or behaviour? But rather, what values does my work help to strengthen, irrespective of the issues upon which I'm focused? This understanding, though, also points to a need to do what we're doing in a more thoughtful way. We can be very instrumentalist in our campaigning. We argue for renewables on the grounds of energy security or biodiversity conservation on the grounds of economic benefits. In deploying these tactics, we risk cutting our nose to spite our face. We risk subtly reinforcing precisely those values upon which any systemic and proportional response to the problems that we confront will have to be built. Groups of people are coming together in a growing number of countries to reflect on the importance of values and to support people in applying an understanding of these in the course of their work. We call this way of looking at social and environmental problems common cause. More than ever, we now realise that working towards a sustainable society is about much more than environmental sustainability. A sustainable society doesn't just consume less, recycle more, use renewable energy and take the train. It's also more community focused, less prejudiced, more equal and happier. Why? Because it's a society which has deliberated about what it values most deeply, which has become aware of how those values are shaped and perpetuated.
So, no systemic change without talking about cultural values. Cultural values underlie everything we do. The important things in the conversation is that everyone gets to talk and that everyone listens. Over to you.